And it's like, because the thing is, that's Steve Gadd right there. So it should feel so wide, right? And when I was studying jazz, man, I haven't said this quote in a long time, but music isn't about being competitive. It's about being creative and not letting the instrument get in the way of the music. When you are mastering a language, or when you have a good understanding of the language, then you become a better listener. And so the best musicians are listening. People will say, how do I get to do what you do? You know, and the answer is,
welcome back to the Worship Drummer Podcast, where we equip, encourage, and inspire local church drummers all over the world. My name is Jon Manna, and I'm very excited to bring you today's episode. Paul Mabury is our guest, and I've waited a long time to have this conversation with him. It is, in my own words, masterclass, lots of gold nuggets that he is bringing in this conversation. So you're going to want to grab a cup of coffee, perhaps, or tea, a notebook, a pen, because he's going to give you the full download. Paul Mabury, if you don't know him, has influenced countless number of worship projects throughout the years. He has his own specific musical sound and is a fantastic drummer and producer as well. So I'm very excited to finally bring you this conversation with none other than Paul Mabury. Let's jump right in. For those of you, many of you would know Paul, but for those of you who might not, I'm going to start with this specific question, and I think it'll set the tone for the whole episode that we're going to enjoy today. So the question, I reached out to Javier.
right on, yeah.
And I texted him and I said, hey, this is for me like a bucket list guest on the podcast. And so I was like, what question would you want me to ask Paul? And so this is what he said. He goes, first of all, he's a bad dude. He's my bro. And then he said, as a drummer, producer, writer, how does it make you feel knowing you're known for changing the sound of CCM?
Oh. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I've done some things that worked. It's an honor. It's an honor for anyone to even think that, especially Hav. He's a legend.
Yeah. And so I wanted to start off with that question, simply because if you don't know Paul, he is a legend, a living legend. And before I actually get into specific questions that I'd love to, have you unpack for us, there's one memory that I have of you that I don't know if you recall. It was October 2005, and
Wow.
you were with Reuben Morgan.
Yeah.
Unite Productions, Paul Kelly, coming through Canada.
Yeah.
And I hosted you guys in Montreal.
Yes, sir. I remember.
And so this was, I was fresh out of Bible school. Ben Fielding was playing.
Yeah, Ben, he was playing guitar.
Electric.
Yeah, electric guitar, yep.
And I had no clue who you were at the time.
Right.
And so that night, actually my kit is right here behind me. And that was the kit you played that night.
That's cool.
I'll give you a little shot at it.
Yeah. Oh, yes, sir.
It's AOT kit. And so I set up all my stuff, and then during sound check, I could hear you just going at it, and I was like, who is this guy that is here today? Anyway, so that night, my friend was doing sound with, I think it was Dale from Unite Productions.
Right on, I remember. Yeah, Dale.
And what I didn't even know till after is that he pressed record on our cassette recorder. Wow. So I actually had the whole night on audio cassette that I would burn through. I don't even know where the tape is today. And you preached that night.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So that's like the crazy little story that
Yeah,
I
that's
have
nuts.
for you. And I've been waiting all this time. Worship drummer didn't exist back then.
No doubt. I mean,
Um,
that was the year 2005. I had just met my wife in 2004 in October. She's American.
wow.
And I met her in LAX between a Brooke Fraser tour and a Ruben tour in Canada. October 12th, 2004, I was flying through from Toronto, um, leaving Paul Kelly and that tour in Canada with Ruben, um, which was a Hillsong tour. And then we were flying through LA. Hikanui, the bass player, and I were flying.
Yeah.
We were flying through LA to join Brooke Fraser and her tour. And this is pre Hillsong for her. She was living in Auckland. Um, and then it'll be a little time after that I'd helped her move to Sydney, and then the rest is history.
History.
But yeah, that was like around that time where Maggie and I got married it was in August of 2005. So it was like there was a lot going on in my world at that time. It was exciting.
Wild times. Yeah. So can you take us back a little bit on your journey? How did you first sense that drumming would be like such a central part of what you would do with the rest of your life, and then even into producing?
Well, I grew up I'm a son of a preacher, man, basically, so grew up in church, and I got my grandmother was a piano teacher, so I actually started playing piano from the age of 5, um, and then it was when I was about 12 years old. My dad was also a big band, composer, conductor as well. So as well as preaching, doing radio during the week it was actually a gambling station. It was just a sport and talk station during the day, and then at nighttime it was talkback. And so my dad did his talkback show, and he kind of used that as a way to permeate society and um, get the gospel out there in a very organic way. Um, but he was also a musician, so I grew up kind of like watching my dad compose and write back then with a pencil on the manuscript and sitting at the piano and writing. But he would often go and preach on the weekends, and so that would mean my brother and I would kind of get dragged out to all these different church camps, and so we had to kill a lot of time. Well, it was lunch, and so everybody went into the food hall or whatever, and so then I walked back into the the worship hall, if you will, was where everyone sung songs, where the stage was.
Yeah.
And so I just got up onto the drums and started playing. I didn't know anyone was there. I just started playing a little beat, and I didn't know this, but the drummer was standing in the back of the hall, and he then ran down to the food hall, walked in, found my dad, and said, "Hey, how long has Paul been playing the drums?" And my dad said he doesn't play the drums, and the drummer said, "Well, he does now." So I didn't realize I was not meant to be able to just sit down and play a beat, but I started playing a beat, and I just figured, okay, well, then I really enjoyed it. Kind of lost time doing it in a good way, and I asked my parents if I could have a drum kit, and they said you can, but you got to start on a practice pad and learn the 40 rudiments, and then
Wow.
once you've learned the 40 rudiments, you can have a drum kit. So that was the beginning of my drum journey. From like the age of 12, I always kind of like heard harmony in my head. I could hear the fifth and the fourth and the third. I kind of knew harmony instinctively as a kid. In
Yeah.
fact, I didn't really learn to read music, and the reason why was my brother. He's my twin brother, and he would do the right thing. He would go in and learn how to read the music, and I would listen to him play the song and then go in and play the song. So I was kind of always by ear. Um, And so as I came into the drum world, it was kind of learning and hearing music from the ground up, from the foundation up. And it's like, I feel very fortunate to have kind of come into like producing music or making tunes or, you know, singing a bass line to the bass player or a horn line to the horn section, harmonies to the background singers or whatever. I've come at it from the rhythm up, and I
Yeah.
think that's um, a lot of the best music makers over contemporary music history were drummers, you know. Like you got making music now, you got Steve Jordan, who's a brilliant producer. Um, you have Phil Collins, who's like one of the biggest influences on my life. Then you have even guys like Bill Maxwell, who produced the early Keith Green stuff and like was a legend with Andre Crouch. And yeah, so there's all this, history of these, beat makers making tunes,
Yeah.
So yeah, but it really started for me at the age of 12. And I kind of just fell in love with it. Then when I, got out of high school, wondered what to do. I went to study graphic design for a year, and then went, no, I don't want to spend the rest of my life behind a computer. Well, there's some irony, right? So I didn't want to do that. But then I thought, what's the best way? I remember being in America for the first time. I was actually at Disneyland, and this band was playing, and I was 20 years old. And I remember watching the drummer and listening to the band and thinking, it's just a covers band, whatever. And I was like, man, I should do music, Why don't I
Hmm.
just try music? And I was always told by my parents, especially my mother, you can't make money as a musician, you just, so like get a real job, plumber, bricklayer, whatever. So I thought, well, if I can get into the best music school, then they'll leave me alone, basically. So
Right.
that's what I did. And it took like 6 months to kind of like work out what I had to get together because it was jazz school. Uh,
Wow.
and yeah, that was where I fell in love with jazz and fell in love with the instrument, with, you know, improvisation and learning how that music worked. Um, and so at 20, I went into the Perth, West Australian Performing Arts Academy. And I was there for a year. And in that time, happened to be in a city where the live scene was incredible. Um, and I started playing gigs every night in bars and clubs, around town.
That's in Western
That was
Australia,
in Perth. Yeah, Perth and Fremantle are the cities that are together there.
which my sister lives in
Oh,
Perth, so
that's
I've been
awesome.
to all of those places.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the prettiest cities in the world for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know about now, but the live scene back then was easily the best in the country. Um,
Yeah.
and so I was working every night of the week, kind of start working in the beer gardens at like 5 in the afternoon and then kind of end up in the cigar lounges and just playing all kinds of music, bossa novas, like blues bands, top 40, your reggae, like you name it, was doing it. Um, and that's kind of honestly where I learned how to, you know, become a music maker. Learned all these different styles, all the standards, so many different songs, like, and yeah, I mean that's where it all kind of came together in my 20s, just playing in that scene. And then I started making trips across the nation, Sydney, Melbourne, and just getting around New Zealand. And I started this kind of acid jazz slash funk pop band. It was called the Jive Express, and we gained in popularity. And we played all the music clubs, um, and that was kind of the introduction to me producing officially.
Mm.
And it really was just because someone needed to make the songs. So I kind of,
Yeah.
I got a buddy of mine who knew how to, you know, engineer record music, and there was a guy, Ainsley Grosser, who's actually here in Nashville. He's a mix engineer, mixes a lot of the stuff in CCM and the worship world, and he helped us out with the studio and was super kind and looked after us, and that was the kind of the beginning stages of me, uh, making music. And it was actually at a time where we were kind of planning as a group to go to London because there was a lot of interest in our group over there and kind of become part of that acid jazz movement, um, which the likes of like Sia and, it was Incognito, Bluey Monique, all these amazing musicians. Um, So that's actually where I thought I was going to end up. It was in London, and all my buddies that were in that band they live there now. They live. I mean, my buddy Deshaun Abraham's been playing bass with Kylie Minogue for like best part of 20 years, and
Wow.
doing the pop scene there, and the horn players like a buddy of mine Graham Blevins. He became part of the London Horns. I mean, all this kind of cool, fun history. But anyway, uh, it was at that point where I played a festival in New Zealand. I think it was called Parachute Festival. Yeah, Parachute.
Oh yeah.
And I met Brooke, a very young Brooke Fraser, and it was shortly after that she uh, emailed me, or I don't know. She may have texted. I don't know texting was a thing back then. I think it was the beginning of texting. As crazy as that sounds, but
Yeah.
either way, she contacted me and she said, would you be interested in helping me, make my first record? It was for Sony. She had like a global deal, just in the general market, and I thought she was incredible, so I was really into it. But I said I can't because I'm doing this band thing. And then within weeks, um, we decided to just very unexpectedly, we just had a meeting as a band, and we just decided to can it, end it.
Hmm.
It was kind of weird. Um, it was kind of like because at the time, most of the guys in the band wanted to start a church in the red light district in the town that we were in, and
Yep.
and do some work in the community there, which we had been doing a little bit, like in Sydney, in a place called Newtown, and some other areas, and it just felt right. It's like, yeah, we don't need to be doing this band thing. You guys start a church, and I was like, wow, maybe I'll reach out to Brooke. So I did, and she said, come on over. By this time, she had made the record. It was called "What to Do with Daylight."
Nice.
And I'm trying to get these names right, but I think she made it with Brady Blade. Is it Brian Blade, the drummer? It was his brother. I think they're both drummers, but amazing,
Yeah.
amazing drummers. Anyway, so he made that record. I flew over and started helping her with make the band, get the band together, and we had these incredible experiences, like opening up for David Bowie. Got to meet him, and um, we did we toured with a young John Mayer. That was after I think it was the Heavier
Wow.
Things record. So we were like touring all together for like 6 weeks or 8 weeks or something. And then it was in that time where I was helping her move to Sydney, and I was going to Hillsong because that's when my friends went. That's kind of as complicated as it was, and um, at the time I was working with Ruben and her, and that's when I met you. So it was kind of at that time where I was never officially working for Hillsong, but
Yeah.
but I would help teach there and play. Well, I actually wasn't playing because I'd work through the week, and then I didn't want to drum on the weekends, right? So what happened is it's Luke Munns, who was the
Yeah.
one of the original founders and visionaries behind United, a great drummer, and he was moving to playing guitar and songwriting, and he asked me to drum for him on a Wednesday night. These nights they call Whopper nights. It was like worship and creative arts nights where all of the students would come, and the worship team would come, and we would teaching, singing, hanging out, encouraging each other, like focus night type thing.
Yeah.
Well, he was going to play a song. He'd sing a song, play a song, and it was a brand new thing for him in a way, and it was very much an honor for me to be asked to play for him. So I was like, of course I will. Well, so he's doing this big old 12/8 kind of song. What a lot of people call 6/8, but we may get into that later. But we're playing this song, and I'm like halfway through the first chorus, and I see this lady with blonde hair running across the backstage, like the back behind the sound desk, the front of house, and then running down the aisle to side stage. The second I get off stage, I just walk down the stairs and I get pushed, and I look up and it's Darlene Check, and she said, "Stop holding out on us."
Wow.
And that was when I started drumming at Hillsong and helping out, and she became like my big sister, and still to this day can never say no to her. So, and she knows that. She asked me to produce and kind of help put together this thing with Michael W. Smith and a whole crew.
Yeah. I'll ask you about that later, the project.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll dive into
So
that.
that was kind of a
But
full circle experience for me, because that was like
wow.
a lot of old friends and a lot of, heroes in the faith and in what would even become in many ways like contemporary worship.
Yeah.
Uh, they are, some of those people are for sure uh, some of the incredible pioneers in what it is, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's a little bit of the
Um,
background. I mean, that's kind of like all over the place and probably hard to follow. And I hope it was, you know.
no, I love it. Can you just circle back on the 12/8 bit? Because I think we'll move on.
Oh yeah, sure. Well,
If you want to dive into that.
yeah, it's well, a lot of people refer to like that. For instance, a song like "Reckless Love" or "Great Are You, Lord." They're referred to all the time as 6/8 songs, but it's actually 12/8 because it's
Yeah.
it's four groups of three. It's not two groups of three. For instance, if I was to sing the beat in both those songs, it's generally speaking, it's boom, gut, boom, boom, gut, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm counting one slow count, which is the groups of three, it's boom, gut, boom, boom, gut, boom.
Yeah.
There's one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 times 3,
Yeah.
12.
12/8.
Whereas 6/8 is usually an Afro-Cuban. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's faster phrasing, right? So yeah, I mean, I digress. At the end of the day, it's just it's simple math, right? But it's like time signatures should be allocated based on the phrase, right?
Got you.
So
Yeah.
where does the phrase start and then where does it end? That's what should dictate time signature.
Love it.
So if it's like a 2 count, that's a 6/8. If it's a 4 count, that's a 12/8.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's
Simple.
it's simple, but it's like it it's it's a little silly that I care so much about it.
No, but I think it's cool. You've had a lot of influence in the sound of worship, the projects you've produced over the last, would you say 15 years plus?
Oh,
Um,
like
or
more.
like
Uh
more.
but
Wow.
yeah, but I mean, but it's like I guess contributing and helping however I could in at Hillsong like um was wonderful, and the music went all over the world, and so we had this kind of unintentional global impact, but it was just a group of friends, giving glory to God with what He's given us, so um songs like Hosanna. I remember when we recorded that
Mm,
on All the Above, and we actually had cut it with some of the young guys because I was more than anything. I was kind of just big brothering the project. It was the first studio record for United, and it was the Savior King year.
Yeah.
It was actually my last year that we were there. I was about to have my firstborn boy. I got 3 boys, so I was going to have my first one. Miller Anzac is my first boy, and Maggie was super pregnant, and we were going up to what used to be Gary Beer's studio, the Grove, I think it was called. I can't remember. Anyway, um, and then Darlene bought that studio, and we were going up to that, to record all the stuff there.
Nice.
So we had to play church that night, play at church that night, which is like an hour away from the studio. And Joel came up to me and said, "Hey, we've got to re-record Hosanna like the way you play it." And I was like, "Oh, okay," And we went up there, and I remember Mikey Chislett like lit about 140 candles, and we were all chilling, and uh, Brookie walked in, and we're all there, and I said, "All right, well, let's go down. I'll start this little beat at the top." And I remember wanting to make the beat. I wanted it to feel like a tsunami, like a big kind of force coming. I just remember visualizing that size and that kind of formidable force, and kind of just trying to emulate that feel. Um, and then, without even thinking, kind of had this 4-way kind of interdependent thing going, like with the hi-hat doing a thing and this rhythm thing, and it's like just started to play. But what I said to the guys before, I said, like, when the song gets to the end, let's just do what we do at church. Let's just go somewhere. I said, let's start off with like quarter note phrasings, then we'll go to eighth note phrasing, and we'll just double as we go, end up from 16 to 32, and then see where we go. And so, if you've ever heard that recording, that's what happened. It was like the song went down as we do, and then we just fell into this little moment, and Mikey started playing something, and it was magical. And then it was one take, and
Wow.
we walked into the control room, and I remember just sitting behind the board and listening and looking at everyone in there and just going, just having that feeling of like, this song's going to go all over the world. Um, and it did.
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was.
We've played it countless times.
Yeah. And it's interesting. It's like, but, I stress that it's like at the time, you're, you don't know. Like, you just kind of like, you're just doing your best to help out and make music to you that um, is sincere and as special as you can make it. And so, uh, yeah, it ended up being a moment in history, really. But at the time, we were just playing Hosanna.
Yeah. Now, on that same note, like, you talked about how you layered quarter notes, eighth notes, and so forth. Um, would you say you have a process of how you go about like shaping the drum parts in songs that you're writing or producing?
Yeah, and that's yes. The answer is yes. There is always very much a deliberate attention to detail, right? And that is, for me, the detail is the groove, right? It's like how you want it to feel. Um, you're not trying to inject yourself into the situation at the expense of the song, like you're trying
Yeah.
to be a part of a song. And so our role, like especially in church, our role in music in general, um, is it's the same, whether you're in church or not. It's like music takes people and it and helps them focus, right? Um,
Yeah.
on whatever it is. And in church, it's our role primarily is to build an atmosphere of praise and to take people's focus off the problem and place it on the answer, right? So
Good.
you see evidence of that throughout Scripture. Um, but so the way a drummer can do that is like incredibly powerful, but you can also be a massive distraction, you know, if you're trying to make it about yourself or whatever, or your paradiddle lick, you know. So for me, it was always just about trying to keep things as seamless as possible and carry a group of people and let's like look, here we go, you know. Um so like for instance with that Hosanna, with that the outro, if you will, um my role there was just to keep outline the feel and then build intensity, you know. And so that naturally would happen by starting the phrases over quarter notes and then intensifying it by doubling the phrases as we went along, right?
Yeah.
Um, and you know, anyone who played in that kind of environment had to become good at doing that, you know. And then I think what I wanted to do, what I really wanted to do was inject space into music that people were singing in the church. Like, because there was a lot of awesome overplaying, but it was still overplaying in my opinion. So what I was trying to do was kind of bring more space into the music. Um, and so that's that's what we did. But you know, there's these little moments in time that change things forever. And so
Yeah.
um, and as I said, you almost never know that when it's actually happening. Hosanna was one of those rare moments where, you know, when I heard it back, I was like, well, this is going to change some things, you know. And a lot of that was based on, you know, that God-given talent that Brooke had, um, and you know that she had something unique to say. Um,
Yeah.
and you know, anytime you're a musician, you get to come along someone like that. It's wonderful. You know, I've got to do it with so many people. I feel very fortunate, you know, to have been able to help some incredible people. So yeah, and you know, with the drumming thing, it's like it really, I think something that can help people to kind of grab what I'm saying from a nuts and bolts point of view. It's
Yeah.
like songwriting, playing, improvising in music. It's really based on a couple of factors, and that's one, theme and variation. So you establish a theme, and then you find variations of that theme, and then tension and release.
Hmm.
So you build tension, and then you release. So there are bands who do that incredibly well, and it's very easy to see what I'm talking about. Like Fix You, Coldplay is a classic example. You build tension, and then you release at the end,
Yeah.
you know. And then there are bands that deliberately don't release, like a band like Death Cab for Cutie. I'm Jason, friend of mine, and when I was touring and kind of helped steer things with Lauren Daigle for a couple of years there, we were paired up with Death Cab a lot at some of these summer festivals, and listening to them play, because he was a fan of my playing, I was a fan of his playing, and so we would always be side stage, kind of, you know, just like encouraging each other. And you know what I found with their music that I found so intriguing was like they would build and build and build and then end. Like they would deliberately build tension and not release, and that was one of their things, you know. And it kind of took me a couple of like immersive listening experiences to kind of realize that's what they were doing, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I'll be hearing a
Wow.
song, I'll be like, oh, why do I feel like, you know? And that was their whole thing. They didn't want to give it to you, you know. They kind of give it to you, and then they finish, you know. It's like
Crazy.
and then you have other artists like Tom York or like Radiohead. Those bands, they were incredible at building this tension, and they rarely ever just give you the payoff. It's more like the whole point is that the angst, you know.
Angst. Yeah.
And so, you know, I definitely, some people might think this is like controversial, but and especially the older I get, like the more I believe what is true is true. Um, it's like the ultimate statement anyone has ever made is I am, you know. So
Yeah.
when Jesus said I am, it's like it's the most calm way of saying no matter what you think doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
Like because I am, you know, whether you like it or not, I am, you know. So it's like for me, what is true, and no matter what we do, no matter what song and dance we make, it doesn't change what is true. Like because true always wins out. Like truth is truth, and one of those truths is music is a gift, and it's a gift to the world, not just the church. It's a gift to people,
Yeah.
and there's wonderful mysteries in there. Um, and it's kind of like anytime someone takes a gift and a moment and just kind of emulates David out in the field, just like tending to the sheep and then like playing on an instrument and just naturally having this moment of glorifying God with that joy. And it wasn't because one day you get a record deal and one day you become a star. It was just like, just
True.
in that moment, there's this childlike response to the sunshine and the birds and the lilies and you know all of these kind of scriptures that have come to life. There's this like moment. At the time, David didn't know that one day he would be king and that these gifts would like bring him so much kind of earthly possession. But
Wow.
at the time, he was just glorifying God, you know, uh,
Yeah.
and just having this honest moment of like, and dare I say, there's so many musicians that their most precious moments have probably been on their own with their instrument with God, you know. It's fun being on stage and playing and like here and 45,000 people sing and there's unforgettable, you know, experiences there, but nothing beats those moments where it's just like you in this Selah moment with your creator,
Mm.
just glorifying God with what he's given you. Um, you know,
Wow.
so to me that's kind of where it's at. And you know, as far as like encouraging bands and worship bands or bands are like in like as I said in and out of the church, it's like
Yeah.
to me it's a language. And you know, if you're learning how to speak a new language, then you're not going to be very good in a conversation, right? Because you're going to spend all of your energy thinking about how do I say what you want to say next.
Yes.
So you're
Yeah.
not as good at listening. Where when you are mastering a language or when you have a good like understanding of the language, then you become a better listener. And so the best musicians are listening
Mm.
more than playing. They're
Wow.
listening more than saying.
Yeah.
So um, that's how I see it. That's the reason
Wow.
why you work hard. And when I was studying jazz, man, I haven't said this quote in a long time, but my teacher, Frank Gibson Jr., said, music isn't about being competitive, it's about being creative and not letting the instrument get in the way of the music.
Wow.
And so there's the reason why we work and practice and get better. It's to be better listeners and more effective communicators,
Yeah.
right?
I love it. That's some gold right there for anyone watching this and listening to this.
um,
Um, Beautiful, man. Uh, Quick question for you on that note. I'll say it this way: that there is a Paul Mabury sound,
uh,
whether it's you on drums or like some albums you've produced. What is do you have to think about that conscientiously, or has it just developed over time, and it's like you kind of know your groove now, that lane?
Yeah, it definitely happens over time, right? Um, it's that, 10,000 hours or whatever. But it's
Yeah.
also like it's really because as 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 much as it seems like there's so many options,
Yeah.
there kind of isn't. When it comes to drum sounds, there's a couple of main lanes. Like, okay, let me break it down. I've never done this before, but let's try it.
Okay.
There's the big backbeat sound, right? Which is like the Phil Collins
Yeah.
classic "In the Air Tonight," or "Against All Odds," right? Or that kind of like "On the Way to Heaven" kind of sound, bop, bop, and you hear it.
Yeah.
Then you have that influencing pop music like Ryan Tedder, One Republic, right? Where it's not about the hi hat, it's about the big backbeat
Yeah.
and that big old boomy bass drum, right? So you have those sounds. So I've learned how to get that most of the time with the Black Beauty.
Yeah.
I know how to tune that. I know how to make that sound like where you loosen off the wires a little bit. But what happens when you loosen off the wires a little bit? Well, now your ghost note doesn't sound great, right?
Yeah.
So you have to understand, like, well, I'm going to sacrifice this, but I'm going to get that. Um, and it's constantly want to keep going in different directions, but I'll try and stay on track. So there's that
Yeah.
sound. Then you have your kind of tight disco sound, right? Which was influenced a lot by, I mean, a myriad of drummers, but like one of the biggest ones was Steve Gadd,
Yeah.
right? Not only in the way that he played, the way that he used rudiments like so musically, and had these songs like 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover with Paul Simon, and like Ricky Lee Jones, Chucky's in Love. There's a lay and fill on that song when it comes out of the bridge. It's like one of the greatest drum moments of all time. If you're a drummer and you haven't heard that lick and seen how he plays it, then you're missing out. But then you have the way that guy played and his approach to toms. And it was that recording customs, tubby sound, usually going through a Neve. And it was just really warm tones. Well, I worked out, Rogers make great drums for that. And, obviously Yamaha, those old drums, if you can find them.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I use the Rogers kits because but no matter what kit I'm playing, you can make it sound like what I'm talking about. So big open sound, like as I said, or and Bonham, obviously Led Zeppelin, stuff like
Yeah.
that, which is basically you listening to a big old room, right? Stairwell or whatever.
Yeah.
Then you have the super tight, dry disco sound, which you can do with the same drums. I stress. One of the other things I do that these guys out there have worked out, stuff that you put on the drum to make it dead. But you also can take gaff tape or duct tape and a chart, like a pad of paper, right? You take the paper, you put it on the
Yeah.
snare, you stick it down around the outside, and then you hit it a couple times, you tear the paper on the inside out. It is the best noise cancellation thing on a snare drum that I've still to this day, that's the best one because it's still set. It's still you still have the volume and it still projects, but it makes it sound like that super tight 70s sound. Obviously the Jeff Porcaro, but they were using more of those verbs. Like I'm just talking about that super tight sound.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and then you have the country sound, which is like it's kind of you can feel the space in the room. And it's just very honest drums, and then you have the rock side of that, which is a little more live, heavier cymbals, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then you move into like the jazz world or the brush world, which is also in the country, which is like playing the same drums with brushes. And it's like, listen, how much have we covered? There's a lot of music which is covered, but I've only really talked
Yeah.
about 3 or 4 different drum tones, right?
Yeah.
And so what I did was I worked out what are my favorite tones in those groups, and in those kind of main lanes. And I kind of dialed it in, like I knew how to get that kind of snare sound for this music or that kind of snare sound for that kind of music. Um, from jazz all the way through, country, Americana, soul, R&B, and then all the way through to pop and loud or whatever. And then obviously, we break beat in the back when it moving to drum machines. That influenced the drummers because then they wanted the drums to sound like the drum machines and vice versa. And there starts this cross pollination of crazy, you know.
True.
And that you take a James Brown beat. Well, that's another whole different scene. That's like that Motown thing where it's almost like one mic on the drums, and really what you listen to again is the room. Um, it's not about the snare as much as it's like the whole drum kit, like it's the way that the toms were ringing with which takes me to drum samples.
Yeah.
And
That sound.
that sound, I want that sound, baby. And it's like that happened because my buddy and I, like my buddy Dustin, had me come over and play drums on some songs. He's a producer, songwriter. Um, and he's had a lot of success with his own things called Zaid Wolf, really fun. But back when we were in a home group together, actually, and
Wow.
around that time, man, a long time ago, like 2011 or something. I don't know. But he called me and he said, "Can I come play some drums on these songs?" It's the first time we'd worked together. And at the end, he was like, "Well, let's give you some samples. I'll hit the snare, 4 or 5 times, and I'll hit your kick a couple times." Well, we catch up a couple months later, and he goes, "Man, I'm using that snare and kick on everything, like everything."
Wow.
And there started this. Well, maybe other people want to use the snares and kicks too. So the big breakthrough we had, the biggest breakthrough we had is that he showed the initiative because I never, if it was up to me, it probably never would have happened. Uh, Lots of ideas that never come to pass, but he made it happen, and we knew it was going to get stolen, right? So,
Yeah.
but I think that would deter people from starting something that we really wanted to do. Ultimately, is like make some money, help people make music, make it easier, uh, make it quicker. And the whole philosophy was based on this: art and science come together, the right combination. Art on one side, science has to come together with the right balance.
Yeah.
If there's too much science, it's not going to work. If there's too much art, maybe it's not going to work. So
Yeah.
the way I'll explain what I'm saying. There was too much science in drum samples, where
Right.
half the time it was not even hit or played by a drummer. Like it was like an engineer just going boing. So
Yeah.
if Aaron Sterling hits a snare drum and I hit a snare drum, well, we actually play pretty similar. So it's going to sound pretty similar, but they're still going to sound like two different drums, right?
Yeah.
If Steve Jordan comes in and plays that same snare drum, it's going to sound like a completely different drum. And I go on. All that to say, we decided to make personality driven sounds. And we decided to make sounds available to people that we used ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And instead of giving you 70 snare drums, we give you 7.
Yeah.
Or we give you like one really good sound, right? And then we give you 8 options of that. But it wasn't like this overwhelming, like you type in, 70s dry snare and there's like 1,000 options. Like
1,000.
why? We had one guy when people started coming to us when we were having success and saying, "Hey, I've got," one guy said to me, "I got 70 gigs of snares," and I'm like, we just want just the good stuff. So the whole thing was built on a brand and the fact that it was just two guys who were releasing this Ma and Pa style, like very independent guerrilla style. And so we branded it in a way that we felt would be like more like boutique,
Yeah.
right? So you walk into the store, you go into Levi's and there's jeans everywhere, right? It's like a sea of denim. Whereas you go into a different store and it's more like there's 7 pairs of jeans, there's like, or there's 4
Yeah.
options. You go into a sandwich store and they got 4 sandwiches, those sandwiches are good, right?
Yeah. That's
You
right.
just know it because they make 4 sandwiches. They're like, you don't want this? Get out of here,
Yeah.
So that's what we did. We ran about it in a very transparent and honest way. Like this is our best for you. We're gonna make it affordable because you're gonna be able to steal it if you want to. So we might as well make it affordable. So we did
Sure.
that, and what we didn't count on was the wildfire that would ensue. Like I remember year I won a couple of Grammys. We're at the we're at the awards in LA, and we're going from the day presentation to the night one. It's like just
Yeah.
across from Staples Center. And Maggie, my wife, and I were walking from the smaller building to the stadium, and it took me like 45 minutes to get there because every like 10 steps, I was getting stopped to get photos and conversations, and guys like in some of them like literally trying not to cry because we saved their bacon at like 2 in the morning, where the mix engineer was able just to finish the song because he just pulled in, you know, Sizzle Bang or
Wow.
Ludwig, one of the samples. We were just inundated, and it bummed me out that Dustin wasn't there
Right.
because there was this moment of like, and it wasn't like people geeking out. It was more sincere. It was like this.
Wow.
There was this family. There was this kind of connection, um, that was like of true gratitude that was overwhelming. My wife was annoyed because she's like, I just want to get into the building, right? But but it made me it really made me very proud, um, that Dustin and I and Kyle Hicks and Jeff Duncan and these guys that with this little company that we were able to make a difference. And well, the sample game's whole. It's a whole different. It's a whole that started something.
Yeah.
Um,
Are those still available on Splice right now?
Splice. We sold the company to
Yeah.
Splice. Really good guys. And so happy we did that. I mean, Dustin, he was the backbone and the machine of the company. And he just didn't want to do it anymore. And I understood that. That was like the right move for us. So we sold it to Splice. Um, and now, like at the time, I had never used Splice, and now I use it almost every day. So
Yeah.
that was the saying. That was the thing that we heard people. Oh, I use that every day. That sound. Oh, I use it every day. So I was like,
Wow.
for us, it was a incredible success story, and as I said, it was a it was crazy. But like I would encourage people, like if you have an idea and you want to execute it, then what I encourage you to understand is that you're probably going to have to push through a hard time.
Yeah.
Uh, things though, that sound didn't become what it was overnight. It was like we had to push through the genesis of the company, and then we had to push through criticism. People started making fun of us, like some of our friends. That would
Wow.
for a while there, everyone was poking fun, and everyone was doing like memes of, "Oh, this is my sample company," and you know, drummers were kind of making fun. And as much as I was like, "Yeah, that's kind of funny," it was also kind of a little bit hurtful. And then,
Yeah.
ironically, most of those drummers who were like making fun ended up signing a deal with that sound, so it was kind of pretty funny. Um, but yeah, it was really fun. Drummers don't usually get to work with drummers. That's the other thing. Um, and so it was fun to be able to come alongside other drummers and um, help them make a little money, on the side.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's like, I think for business, I remember asking this super wealthy guy, I was like, man, what do you think is the biggest lesson you've learned? Um, and his response was, don't be too busy to make money. And
Hmm.
I found that really interesting. And that sometimes um, you can just get caught in the weeds a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, or you can start to think like, uh, well, what if this doesn't work? Or, oh, this is just going to be too hard. It's like, they're the things you gotta push aside. Like if you get a vision, you get an idea, then just get after it, you know. And like for us, one of the things that really started hitting me, it was like, well, how can I get a return from hard work already spent?
Right.
Right. And a lot of that
Wow.
was, I had this collection of drum sounds from making music, and I was like, they're just sitting there, you know. Um, and it's like, why shouldn't I be able to give someone who can't afford me to drum on their song, I could still give them my sound, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and so that was kind of where it came from. Um, and now, I mean, wow, I mean, that was we started that thing back before this kind of whole new process of music was really taking off, and that is like, you know, we used to make music in a room with musicians because that's what you had to do, right? So it was like
Right.
you needed engineers, you needed specialists um, to get it done, uh, and then you needed a way for your music to get heard. So the process always involved other people.
Yeah.
There was more communication needed, more um, community, you know. So now music's more made. It's made more like like building Lego, like making Lego. You know, it's like there's
Yeah.
all these pieces and blocks that you just pull in, and
Wow.
and then you build your Lego, and then it's there, and then you play with it. But at the end of the day, it's like now you can release music like you could so much so easy, right?
Do you think it takes more talent to do that or to sit in a room with musicians, or is it just different?
It's just different, right? Like I don't say one's better than the other. I think a lot of young music makers now are missing out uh,
Mm.
on on the history and why that drum sounds like that. You know, why where that came from, you know, or
Yeah.
what, you know, if you go into a four on the floor disco beat that sits around 115 BPM, then who are the artists who made so many hits like that, and how and why is that drum kit tuned like that, and why does that bass line go like that, and
Yeah.
therefore what would the guitar do there, and then so when you have those understandings, when you have that lineage, the lineage, like when you have those records in your in your head, in your heart, like in your soul, like that's rewarding. There's fun. There's an anchor. There is a confidence, right?
Yeah.
But that's not better than a kid who's just in his room and just like throwing a bunch of stuff together and having fun and just seeing what happens, because incredible stuff happens there too, right?
Sure.
Um, but yeah, this I remember one of the shows I was doing with Lauren uh, on the East Coast. It may have been Boston. I can't remember the city, but John Batiste. I hope I'm saying his name right. Anyway, I hope everyone knows what I'm talking about. Really, really sweet guy, incredible artist. Has since gone on to have incredible success. Well, he drove like 2.5 hours or something to come have a conversation about the record Lookup Child,
Wow.
about space. So he drove that far to come and ask me a question. That's the reason why he's successful, right? Right.
Yeah.
That's the reason why. It's because he was hungry, you know, but he understood the depth and the care and the joy that he's getting from pouring himself so fully into something, you know. Um, but yeah,
Wow.
things like that they have impacts. I remember when I met him and we had that conversation, and then like it had as much impact on me, if not more. You know, his hunger and
Mm.
his genuine like care about making music really had a
Yeah.
deep impact on me. You know, it's like, you know, we do this thing, you know, making music and living this life, and you often get inspired and encouraged in the most unusual, unexpected ways and times, you know. So yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah,
Um, to change gears just a little bit,
sure.
because I do want to talk about House of Worship. A couple of weeks ago, you sent me, and I noticed you were posting about this project. You're on drums. I'm just going off memory. Darlene is there, CeCe Winans, Michael W. Smith, Cody Carnes, just a bunch of names that are household worship names.
Yeah.
So I'll just give you the floor to talk about the project and what is special about it too.
A friend of mine, John Hartley, producer, songwriter, music maker here, English friend. He's been here forever. I was in the airport. I get a phone call from him. I'm about to get on a plane. And he said, hey, you know, Darlene and Michael wanted me to call you to ask if you would be interested in producing this worship night where, as you said, all the people from Martin Smith and Matt Redman, Tim Hughes, and blah, 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 all coming together to sing those OG songs.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I was about to say yes. And he said, well, I told him you wouldn't do it, and I was like, bro, of course I want to do it. It's like an incredible honor to be even considered. But not to mention, it was Dolls. Darlene was asking me. I'm not going to say no. Like she's like I said,
Yeah.
she was full circle, right? So because when he said to them, well, I don't know if he'll do it. Darlene said, ask him. It's just like she knew, but
She knew.
but for me that was like an honor, and it would become like an unforgettable, experience. And also like I hadn't. Uh, I feel like I needed a break from those kind of environments, the
Hmm.
corporate kind of that world. I feel like I was honestly a little bit burnt out on it.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like doing my best to kind of uh allow music and God to kind of fall back into a more sacred space again. Um,
Yeah.
you know, so that's kind of where I was, and so it was kind of like God's way. And I rarely ever talk like this, but it really felt like it was just God's way of just encouraging me, um, that like I'm still part of the fold, like I'm still, and I have this history and these people that are, it's it's such a rich thing to be a part of,
Wow.
and it was unbelievable seeing everyone together. I still actually kind of don't know how that happened. There was a lobby area and a little cafe, kind of trailer area where we were all just kind of hanging out. And on the first morning, and I'm standing here, and Martin Smith was there, and everyone was just, CC, everyone's just hanging, and Ed Cash walks in, and he looks at me and looks at Martin, and just burst into tears, and it's like, and immediately I got tears in my eyes. It was like a tangible love
Mm.
and acceptance. There was zero ego.
Wow.
It was the most heaven-like, kingdom-like atmosphere I think I've been in a long time. Um, and there was just this gratitude, and we got to go through each song. Each song leader got to come in, and we ran the song down, just one time, and I was recording everything just in case.
Yeah.
Um, but it was like every single time we went through a song, it was like just tears flowing, and just like, you know, we went through "I Could Sing of Your Love Forever," um, with Martin, and he just stepped. Stu G's playing guitar, and I'm like, dude, I'm like, this is amazing, right? So every song was amazing. You know, it's like the song, there's so many memories for me. Like the first time round, I'm thinking back, I was there, you know, and it's like
Yeah.
now we're here. Like I got three boys that just, you know, they're all bigger than me now. And then I remember Darlene holding my firstborn, you know, I just dropped him off to Cincinnati for a D1 track and field scholarship, you know.
Wow.
You know, this family, this is like memories, like so many years of now watching these individuals be so faithful with what God has given them, and yet I got to be a small part of it. Incredibly
Yeah.
humbling and grateful, um, and it was one of the most special nights I've ever had and ever will have. It was like it was unreal, and I asked Michael W. Smith, "Who's the best?" I said, "Well, he was meant to come and play piano at the start and at the end, um, and close it out with Agnes Day and you know
Wow.
drop mic basically." But it was like, I said, "Would you consider playing the whole night, just sitting on the piano?" And because when he came and sat down, it was like Big Brother just walked in,
Yeah.
and it was just awesome. And Matt Stanfield's such a stud, and he was playing keys, right? But the second Michael sat down, it just was like, well, now we're complete, you know? So I asked him, and he said, I would love to. Are you real? Are you for real? I'm like, Michael W. Smith, are you kidding me? Like, just play, man, please. Like, so that's how that happened. He played the whole night, and at halftime, when we got to, you know, take a bit of a breather, and the engineers got to check the ones and zeros and all that stuff, you know. Uh, he said, he came up to me with tears in his eyes, and just said, "I will never ever forget this night." And I just felt exactly the same way. It was, you know,
And
it was so special, and they're releasing songs one at a time right now. I wish it was all just coming out because it's like it's uh it's an incredible night. You'll see, it's just every single song was just like wow, wow, you know.
that's so cool.
Yeah.
And will that be available on Spotify? I know there's like a live streaming
Yeah,
thing, an
I
event.
think in time. I don't know enough about it. Unfortunately, I should have been prepared. Uh,
Oh,
but
that's okay.
it's. I think what's happening is they're going to release it one song at a time, and then there's going to be a documentary, and it's actually going to be. I think it's going to be in cinemas, honestly.
Wow.
And then after that, I think it'll be available. If I could guess, at some point it'll be available everywhere. Um, But initially,
That's so
maybe
cool.
not. I mean, initially, they're trying to get the traffic to a certain spot, you know. But yeah, it's really cool. It was incredible, like experience, and like I said, it was just such an honor to be a part of it. And yeah, hope that they would consider letting me be involved in any way if they, you know, do more.
Yeah.
So there's all these kind of OG songs, and then I think the only song that wasn't kind of from that era was "Mighty to Save," but all the other songs were kind of like really. Because I remember this is another story, but when "Mighty to Save" was written, that was written by Ben and Ruben,
Yeah.
and Ruben was like at that point everyone was writing songs on their own in the church. Like no one was co-write. Like there was no like co-writes. There was no like
Yeah.
it was kind of that culture where you go up the mountain and you come down with the song kind of thing. Which is, you know, that was kind of just the way the culture around songwriting in the church at the time on the whole. But I remember hanging with Ruben. I was actually living with them at the time before I got married to Maggie, and um, this would have been around 2004, 2003.
Yeah.
And he walks downstairs and he goes, "Hey, you ever think about this crazy? Like all these pop songs are being written by like 4 and 5 people, and we never write together. Like like some of the best songs in the world are written by a bunch of people, and why aren't we doing that? And I was like, that's a good point, So he asked me to write with him, and for some reason, like at the time, I just never had a piece to write at Hillsong. Like it was just like I just really didn't feel like I ever got the green light. I write
Yeah.
almost every single day now. Like I spend every day with the acoustic on my lap writing songs now. But at the time, it just didn't feel right. Anyway, so I said, "Hey man, you should write with Ben. Like Ben had just moved to Sydney from Melbourne. They grew up together. They're old friends." I was like, "Write with Ben." He's like, "Huh." So they got together, um, and the first song they wrote, I can't remember the name, but that was recorded as well. And the second song they wrote was "Mighty to Save."
Man.
Um, And I remember coming home from a rehearsal or something I was doing, maybe with Brooke, and standing on his driveway, and he was kind of standing up on this boulder, on this rock. And so it was kind of high out, and I was looking up at him, and the sun was like glaring, and he goes, "Yeah, man." He sang the chorus to me. He said, "What do you think about this?" And say you can move a mountain, God is mighty to save. I was like, "Ah." And I said to him, "I can hear Stephen Curtis Chapman sing that. Yeah." And I was kind of half joking. I didn't know that one day it would be Michael singing it, but yeah. So anyway,
That's cool.
yeah, that's a little bit of history, little more history for you there.
I love it. That was one of the songs you guys played in Montreal.
Yeah,
And as I was listening, you started into one of the verses with a 6-stroke roll,
yeah,
followed by some 8 notes like "Tugu-tugu-katakatum."
yeah,
And I was like, I've never heard that before.
yeah.
Like,
Rudiments
just
in
as a
church. Yeah,
younger, so I was like, what was he doing there? So I had to map it out, figure it out. It was a 6-stroke roll heading into eighth notes.
yeah. Boom. And it's like
Exactly.
because the thing is, that's Steve Gadd right there. So, but that beat, it's like. It should feel so wide, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, and it should feel like formidable. Those kind of beats around that 74 BPM, they're too fun to play. But it's like
Yeah.
it's all about that. It's the 16ths.
Yeah.
It's all about that. Whatever you're playing your hat with, whether it's your left or your right, it's all about that. Locking that down, and then you know when you hit to the chorus and you if you go into the ride to give it that air, then make sure that hi-hat's giving you the 16th still, because at the 74 plus, you just work up that left foot, man. Don't leave that one on the floor.
Yeah. I love it. Um, Real quick, I do have some rapid fire questions for you.
Yep.
All right. So, um, I know you kind of referenced it already, but what's your go-to snare?
Black Beauty.
Okay.
14 by like 5 by 14.
Sweet. Favorite cymbal setup for worship?
2 Constantinople cymbals. Maybe even just one. But I use crash cymbals for hi-hats, and it's
Yeah.
because they're just warmer. I've done that for, almost, well, yeah, over 20 years. So 16s, usually an A on the bottom, maybe a K on top. And I just grab a bunch of 16-inch crash cymbals, and I just keep trying different ones until they work. And then one or two cymbals, usually 22, usually 22s, Constantinople's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Click track wisdom. A lot of churches, playing to a click or even stems, multi-tracks. Any advice or wisdom for guys, even younger ones who are getting into that world for church?
Yeah. I think you should practice with a click. Um, when you practice with the click and record yourself on your phone or whatever. And then practice with the same beat without the click and record yourself. And just check your pulse and your feel. Because you want to be able to ideally get to be playing like to a click track where you're not thinking about the click track anymore. But you never want to lose the ability just to go play,
Yeah.
And trust your own time center as well. I remember having a conversation with Steve Jordan on the first record that we kind of shared the honors. And he's obviously literally a legend and one of my kind of drum heroes. And he was saying, he said something interesting about playing to a click that I agreed with. And that he's not really ever trying to bury the click. He's just he's like, I just hang out with it,
Yeah.
make friends with it kind of thing. And that makes the most sense to me. I mean, sometimes I'm burying the click, but most of the time I'm not trying to do that. If I'm playing with a bunch of sequencing and stuff, but you gotta put it on the dot, right? So
Yeah.
that's when I'm kind of burying it. And but if I'm playing, in a stage setting or a church setting or whatever it is, it's usually just, hang out with the click, don't fight it. And just keep doing that until it's not a thing anymore, that's once you've put in, the right amount of hours doing that, it will just become like not a thing. And I would like to encourage young drummers, like, or people who are in that situation, like that are finding it hard, just keep at it, because in time, it's not going to be a thing at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. Another question. You only have 20 minutes to practice. What would you sit down and do?
Well, 20 minutes a day is more than enough. That one. If you do it a day, every day, 20 minutes,
Yeah.
then that's a lot, in fact, in my opinion, you're better off doing 20 minutes every day than nothing during the week and then like 3 hours in one, because it's like, that's just not how you get better. You get better by just a little bit every day. Some people are obsessed with it. I've never been a big practicer, for the record. But I have lost time, playing. And the best technically that I've ever been is, when I was like at the conservatorium, when I was drumming, like having to pass scale barriers and, play 30-second notes at like 110 BPM kind of thing, where it's just like, but that wasn't like the best at drumming that I've ever, like, to me, I'm a lot more musical now than I was then, so, but yeah, so like 20 minutes a day is a great goal, and you can do it. Most people can do 20 minutes a day, and actually I haven't been drumming lately at all. And so I decided today, literally today, that I'm going to go back to just doing like, just give it like 20-30 minutes every day. Just get my hands back, get my feet back. And because now, I generally don't do many drum sessions, but when people call me, which they still do, and ask me to put drums, like if it's someone like Keith Urban or whatever, I'm not going to say no, so I go back there and I play on the song, but it usually takes 10 minutes, and then I'm back right here in post and adding sound design and doing this, that, and the other. So now I want to literally get back. I want to get back into playing, because it's fun.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
fun when it's not work as well, I guess, too, right?
Yeah, and it's like, it's something that I should never completely let go. I that would be weird to me. It's so
Yeah.
I'm kind of, I sit here and I work in this room, and like as you can see, like the drums are back there, um, and it's like I just spend the whole day looking at them. Like while I'm making tunes. Uh, like I said, now I spend most of my days playing guitar and
Yeah.
writing songs. Um, but yeah, so I'm at a point where I have to make the drum thing happen, um, because it's not very enjoyable when I'm knocking out a drum track for someone and I haven't played the drums like since it's like it just feels so awkward. It may sound great, it still works, everything works. I've played for too many years for it not to be fine, but
Right.
like it's just not good stewardship of a gift. I should keep it going.
Um,
It's too easy. It's too easy just to make that much time.
yeah. No, I hear you.
Yeah.
Cool. I think one last question as we wrap up is what's one encouragement you'd give to specifically worship drummers who might feel unseen but want to keep growing and developing, but like serving faithfully, but maybe, just struggling a little bit to find where they belong or
Mhm.
their self-worth in the middle of all of it?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I think one, God sees you, um, and He knows what you're giving, and He knows the sacrifices that you are making. Um, but it's like the boy with the fish and the bread, right? It's like there's a bunch of hungry people out there, and He can't feed them all, so He could have just like gone somewhere and sat under a tree and got Himself full. Uh,
Yeah, true.
but He offered it, like He took it to the right man. And that was multiplied, and everyone got to eat. So that's for like, I often pray, like, I ask God to help me and my family to be a blessing to people with our time and our effort and our money. Um, and and in a way, every time that guy drives to rehearsal and sets his drums up or sits in the fishbowl and swings away, it's like that's you bringing the fish and the loaves of bread, and saying, "Hey, this isn't a lot, but
Yeah.
this is what I got, and I'm trusting you with the rest." That's my encouragement is don't not like be a bringer because
Yeah.
you don't think it's enough or you don't think it's a lot. Just bring what you got, because God's the one that makes up the deficit. It's like when I think back over the stuff I've got to be a part of, like I could have missed out on it all if I listened to the wrong voice. You know, um, be a contributor. You know, if you're feeling down or discouraged, like go and encourage somebody else. And
Hmm.
it's often the way we get out of the woods. You know, um, is by taking someone by the hand and helping them out. Um, so it's like sometimes, especially in a church scene. Um, there's a lot of people involved. You can start to kind of feel invisible. Um,
Yeah.
and I'll say this: I fully understand that. I think some people would look at me and think, "Well, you don't understand. You don't know what it's like. You've got to work with all these incredible people. Like, what do you know?" And like, well, I have a memory as a kid because I was like ADHD, found it hard to concentrate. Back in a time where no one even knew what that was. We didn't know what, carbohydrates were. It's like no one talked about
Yeah.
carbs or celiac or, back when it was just, well, I had a sensitive stomach or something. It's like,
Right.
um, there was no, if someone said Asperger's, you would think they were talking about some kind of cheeseburger. But it's at the end of the day, I was a kid who found it hard to concentrate in class, and therefore was kind of like implied by teachers that I was kind of dumb or whatever,
Hmm.
or difficult, whatever. Finds
Yeah.
at the top of my report card would be like struggles to concentrate in class, and I remember teachers, saying, Mr. Mabry, what did I just say? And I'd be like, I don't know. Uh, and I'd be horrified. I'd be so nervous. I'd get kicked out of the classrooms and spend so much time sitting in the hall, outside. And I
Wow.
think now, as an adult, I'll be at a like party or at at an awards night where I'm even getting an award or whatever, and I feel like someone's going to tap me on the shoulder and say, "Hey, man, you're not meant to be in here. You're meant to be over there," or whatever.
Wow.
So there's a part of me that's still going to be that kid that's sitting outside, just feeling like I'm not going to be able to get this together or um, be ever really fully accepted. But the beauty of the gospel is like Jesus comes and sits with me outside,
Hmm.
and he goes, "You know what? It's kind of better out here anyway, So then he walks back into the class with me and sits with me and helps me to understand that it's okay if I don't focus all the time and I find it hard to focus in class, because one day I'll find a place where all of those disadvantages become an
Yeah.
advantage or advantages. So it's like, yeah, whoever you are out there that you're discouraged or you're feeling like it's not going to happen, just keep bringing what you got, and trust God with the rest. He's like, God's not holding out on you. Like his timing is right, so just one foot in front of the other. Um, and even now in my career, where in a way I could just walk away from music altogether. Um, and I have for, I remember like around the pandemic, I really just didn't make music for like a year and a half or something. Didn't
Wow.
play and just kind of like really worked on finding myself not in what I was doing, but more in like who I am, and no matter what, So on the other side of that, like I feel now like my role is honestly probably 50% therapy, and then looking after people and understanding that like I'm 51 years old now, So
Yeah.
it sounds weird to say, but my role now is more like taking people under my wing and helping them find their voice and making music and then still having incredible experiences in getting to play every now and then. But that's not as much as I used to. I used to play every day, So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I'm grateful for all of it, and for me now, it's kind of it's funny you asked that question, like, because to me, like my the thing that I can be most effective at now is encouraging people.
Wow.
Just don't quit. Just keep on with it, Um, and people will say, "How do I get to do what you do?" And the answer is like one foot in front of the other. There's no thing
Fast
that I
track.
sorry?
Yeah. There's no fast track.
No, like it's like making an old friend. You can't meet someone and be old friends. Like you got to let that happen over time. So,
Yeah.
um, what has got me here, whether it's good or bad, is saying yes and following through. That's it.
Wow.
Like one of the greatest things you can do is show up. Like show up. And some days that's really hard to do, especially if you struggle with anxiety, you get worn out, but you just get yourself there, you
Yeah.
know. Like that is most of it is showing up, you know. And there's no shortcuts, work hard. Um someone said to me the other day, they said, you said something that was all these years ago, and it's like it stuck with me. And I can't remember saying it, but apparently I said, if you take a shortcut, it'll probably sound like one, you know, like musically.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just gotta keep working at it, man. You got that nothing comes easy, and it shouldn't. When I've seen people, especially in art and in music, when I've seen people get there quickly, they lose it quickly.
Wow.
Like it's the people who have got into a routine of working hard that stay at it and they have the most success. It's because, for instance, with the Look Up Child record with Lauren Daigle, when I was producing that record, I could kind of tell, hearing it in my head and then executing with Lauren and Jason, it was like over time, I know I was probably driving them crazy, but definitely driving my bro Jay crazy. But I was just so focused on the end result because I could hear it in my head.
Yeah.
And it's another whole day of stories, but it's like when it started, I knew it was going to cross over and that it would do well. I didn't know it would do as well as it did, but like I remember someone asking me like how long did it take to make that record, and I said about 35 years, And I'll finish with this story. There's this story about Picasso. Um, I believed it to be true. Whether it's not or it is, it's still helpful. And that is, he was standing outside a cafe, and a young lady in the cafe looks out and sees Picasso on the street corner, and so she scrambles and runs to the clerk and says um, to the barista, says, "Hey, do you have a piece of paper or a postcard or a pen, something?" So she hands her a postcard that was white on one side, picture on the other, and a pen. And she runs out to Picasso and says, "Sir, would you draw something for me?" And he takes the postcard and he says, "Sure," and does his Picasso scribble on there. He goes to hand it back to her, and she goes to take it, and she can't. He won't let go. And he says, "That'll be $5,000."
Hmm.
And she said, "What? That like took you like 5 seconds?" And he said, "No, my dear, it took me a lifetime."
Wow.
Put it in his pocket and walked off. So that's how I feel about working hard on something. It's like just don't quit because you never know where you'll end up.
Wow.
Yeah, but value the journey because the journey's where it's all happening. It's not the end game. The end game's nothing. Like it's all about the journey. It's like,
Yeah.
and as of dropping off my oldest, and I'm gonna do it with my second born George and my third born, like the bear. We call him Bear. His name's James. You drop them off. Like drop Miller off in Cincinnati, and 8-time state champion, 3 All-American. Like the guy's like a stud, but they're not the things I remember. It's like the diapers and the dinners and
Right.
the first time falling off a bike, and it's all those little moments that and the chaos that you want back. Um, so all these like getting up and going to practice or going to sound check and all that kind of stuff. That's the stuff one day you'll look back and you'll want it back. So
As crazy as it sounds saying that, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
like there are some days where I really miss that, like the atmosphere that was at Hillsong, and
Hmm.
the listening to all the voices and just seeing what God was doing in that corporate setting. But that was then, and that was the moment in time.
Yeah.
There's like, revival makes money, and money kills revival, and that will never change.
Wow.
And another way of saying that, what's true is true, is a special moment is almost always special because it's gone,
Right.
right? If
Man.
it's every day, it's not special. So we
Yeah.
go into these things, and our human nature is something special happens. We go, oh, wait, let's print T-shirts. Let's do the same thing next week. Well, it may not be as special. I dare say it won't be. The problem
Right.
is we're trying to convince each other it was still as special.
Yeah.
You know, no, probably not. Just different, still special, you know.
Yeah.
So, I encourage every team member, like in the worship drummers out there, the drummers who drum in church, uh, just take those little moments and those special nights, like, and just enjoy them from what they are, because what made that special is that it's gone,
Amen.
and that's what's beautiful about life. You never know what's coming, but the memories and stuff that you build, it's stuff that you got to remember because you were there, you contributed, you helped, you were part of a community, you were having communion with your brothers and sisters, you're contributing to something and making it special. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Paul, thank you so much for spending the time and for sharing from your lifetime really with us.
Yeah. So I
Um,
hope I said some things that are helpful or encouraging or both.
100%. I'm going to dub this like a masterclass for any musician, especially drummers though. And, if you want to follow Paul on Instagram, it's at Paul Mabury.
hmm
Anywhere else where we should send people? Splice?
As of right now, no. Yeah, Splice. Yeah, there's a lot of drum libraries on there from that sound. So yeah, go and check that out. I mean, Splice is awesome. It's such a great, fun way to make music. Super cool.
Man, what an honor to finally hear from Paul Mabury right here on the Worship Drummer podcast. I don't know about you, but I have a fresh wave of inspiration to continue to sit here at the kit to practice, but not to just keep it here, but to give my best for the church and ultimately for Jesus, because everything we do is worship. If this episode has encouraged you, would you do me a huge favor and share this with perhaps another worship drummer or even your worship pastor or your whole worship team? And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything that's coming up, such as next episodes or some behind the scenes content if you're watching right here on YouTube. And then also, if you're not hanging with us on Instagram, be sure to find us there at Worship Drummer is our handle. We have some upcoming events here in Toronto that we're going to be at. And so we're going to post some BTS content. Obviously, we'll have some YouTube stuff coming out as well. So until next time, keep putting the heart before beat.